You think swimming with sharks is expensive. Swimming with sharks cost me an arm and a leg. Today, I'm going to recap a 2008 action fantasy film called Iron Man. A quick warning, there will be major spoilers ahead. A convoy of military Humvees drives across the Afghanistan desert. In one of them is billionaire weapons developer Tony Stark, riding with soldiers on duty. Suddenly, the convoy is ambushed by unseen gunmen. The soldiers fight to defend themselves, but are quickly killed. Tony flees the Humvee, taking refuge behind a large rock. A missile lands nearby and explodes, but not before Tony sees the Stark Industries logo painted on it. A small amount of shrapnel penetrates his body armor, and he is losing consciousness. Las Vegas, 36 hours earlier. Tony Stark is about to receive the Apogee Award in Las Vegas. Born the son of legendary weapons developer Howard Stark, Tony is a child prodigy who built his first circuit board when he was 4 years old, his first V8 engine when he was 6, and graduated summa cum laude from MIT when he was 17. His parents were killed in a car accident in 1991, and when he was 21, he became CEO of Stark Industries, where he is to this day. Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes prepares to present Tony the award, but Tony is not in attendance. Tony's right-hand man, Obadiah Stane, accepts the award in Tony's stead. Rhodey later finds Tony partying in a casino. On his way out, a reporter named Christine Everhart approaches Stark with some questions regarding the ethics of his weapons business. Stark deflects her questions with some swift quips, and the two end up spending the night together at Tony's oceanfront house in Malibu. The next morning, Christine is awakened by a voice on a computer monitor. It's JARVIS, the artificially intelligent program responsible for running Tony's house and his research lab. As Christine leaves the house, she's greeted by Tony's assistant, Virginia Pepper Potts. Pepper helps Tony catch up on some business before Tony heads out to the airport where his plane awaits. In flight, Tony talks with Rhodey. Rhodey is unhappy about Tony's lax attitude, and Tony tries to get his old friend to relax. Before long, they are drunk and leering at the flight attendants. Tony arrives at a military outpost in Afghanistan to demonstrate his company's latest project, the Jericho, an advanced super missile system. After the demonstration, Tony gets a phone call from Obadiah, and they are both pleased that the demonstration went well. Refusing to ride with Rhodey, Tony takes off in another Humvee where the ambush from the opening of the story takes place. Much later, Tony regains consciousness in a cave. On his chest is a strange device, crudely connected to a car battery. Another captive, Dr. Yinsen, explains that he operated on Tony, but was unable to remove all of the shrapnel. Yinsen created a device, essentially an electromagnet, that will keep the remaining fragments from shifting and causing further damage to his heart. The terrorist who captured Tony and Yinsen enter the room. Yinsen translate they want Tony to build them a Jericho missile. Tony refuses and they torture him by dunking his head in water. Hours later, the terrorist, members of a group called the 10 Rings, show off a huge stockpile of weapons, all made by Stark Industries. Tony appears to give in and starts building the missile, but he has other plans. With Yinsen steady Doctor's hands and using palladium collected from his weapons, Tony constructs a tiny version of an arc reactor, streamlined from a much bigger design used at his company's headquarters. The power output is enough to run Stark's heart for 50 lifetimes, or something much bigger for about 15 minutes. Yinsen tells Tony a little about himself. He lived in an Afghani village called Kolmira that was attacked by the 10 Rings. He doesn't know if his family is still alive. Tony is spurred and seems to have a change of heart. He begins to draw up plans for a weapon system and use to defeat the terrorist. Midway through construction, the head of the 10 Rings, Raza, arrives and threatens to torture Yinsen, angry because he thinks Stark is not working on the Jericho as they wanted. Tony bargains for Yinsen's life, saying he makes a good assistant. Raza gives them one more day to finish. Working furiously overnight, Tony completes his project. Yinsen straps Tony into the completed armored suit, telling him the way out of the cave. They set off a bomb inside the cell door as a distraction for the guards as Tony powers up his suit. Yinsen realizes that they will not have enough time. Over Tony's protest, he grabs a gun and runs off to distract the surviving guards. Tony, his suit now fully powered, muscles his way through the cave. The guards try to stop him, but his suit easily deflects their weapon fire, and he beats them off or kills them. He also fires one of the suit's missiles at Raza himself, who is flung out of sight by the blast. Halfway out of the cavern, Stark finds Yinsen mortally wounded. Yinsen reveals that this was his plan, sacrificing himself so Tony could escape. Tony tearfully thanks Yinsen for saving him. Yinsen's last words to Stark are not to waste his second chance at life. Tony turns his suit on the remaining terrorist, igniting flamethrowers and firing missiles. He destroys their stockpile of weapons, but some of their larger caliber weaponry begins to damage his suit. He uses a rudimentary jetpack to launch himself out of the valley. His jetpack fails and he survives a crash in the desert. Stark leaves the suit behind and hikes through the desert until a couple of US helicopters fly overhead. A group of soldiers, led by Rhodey, come across Tony and is overjoyed to find that his friend is alive. Tony is quickly flown back to the United States. Tony appears before a group of reporters, and clearly humbled and no longer the arrogant CEO he was before his capture, announces that he intends to shut down Stark Industries' weapons manufacturing division immediately. At the same time, Pepper is approached by Agent Phil Coulson, from Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistic Division. They want to talk to Tony about his capture. Pepper schedules an appointment for them. That evening, Obadiah confronts Tony about his actions, furious. Obadiah knows that the stock value for their company, and by extension, their financial status is going to take a serious drop because of this announcement. Through the conversation, Tony ends up revealing his Mark I chest piece to Obadiah, but refuses to allow the device to be studied for production. Tony created an upgraded and much more powerful mini-arc reactor, the Mark II chest piece, but can't install it into his chest without someone to help. Pepper's hands are small enough to fit inside the chamber in Tony's chest. They manage to complete the process in time. Tony tells Pepper to destroy the old model since he's not a sentimental person. Tony, studying a 3D CGI mapped image of the Mark I, discards many of the components, streamlining the design. Meanwhile, Raza, having survived his battle with Stark, and searches the desert, gathering all fragments of the Mark I suit that Tony left behind. Tony decides that the first thing he has to do is to perfect the armor's flight system. Since the leg-mounted jets proved too unstable, he creates repulsors for the feet and palm-mounted stabilizers for balance. Pepper comes in when he is testing the stabilizers, and they find that it also creates a powerful repulsion beam that could also be used as a weapon. Pepper leaves a paper-wrapped box on Tony's desk as a gift. After several failed and painful attempts, Tony perfects his flight system, and is delighted at the prospect of flying. The Mark II armored suit is soon finished. Tony connects with JARVIS to monitor the progress in the suit. Against Jarvis's advice, Tony takes it out for a test flight, and he is thrilled by the suit's functionality. Tony pushes the limit for high-atmosphere flying, but at such great heights, the freezing air causes the suit to become coated with ice, and his power supply shuts down. Tony is barely able to reactivate his thrusters in time to avoid crashing into the ground. Stark returns home, but the armor is so heavy that it smashes through 3 floors of the house, and he crushes one of his prized sports cars. As Tony recovers from his crash landing, he opens the box that Pepper left behind earlier. Inside is the Mark I arc reactor, encased as a trophy with a message, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Tony analyzes more data and decides to rebuild the suit using gold titanium from an old project to solve the icing and weight problems. He instructs Jarvis to add some hot rod red trim to the next suit, codenamed Mark III, then leaves to attend his annual benefit dinner while the new suit is being assembled and painted. At the charity event, Tony meets with Agent Coulson, who still wants to learn about Tony's incident. Tony leaves to dance with Pepper, and they share a moment together in the moonlight. Christine, the reporter, angrily confronts him, showing him photographs of his weapons being used by a terrorist group the previous day in the remote Afghan town of Golmira, Yinsen's home village. Tony confronts Obadiah on the matter, and Obadiah reveals that he is the one who filed the injunction against Tony. Obadiah calls himself an ironmonger, and has no qualms about selling Stark Industries weapons to both sides of the conflict. Tony returns home, furious. While there, he watches news reports of the worsening situation in the Galmira region. He tests modifications to his hand repulsors, turning them into a weapon and blasting out several glass panes. When the new suit is completed, it is fitted to his body by an automated robotic system. Stark flies off to Galmira at hypersonic speed. In Galmira, terrorists are rounding up civilians for capture and execution when Tony shows up. His Mark III armor is more than a match for them. Within seconds, he defeats the first group of terrorists, using his advanced weapons to take out several without any innocent casualties. He leaves the group's leader, Raza's chief lieutenant, alive and defenseless for the villagers to take their revenge on. While flying, Iron Man is shot down by a tank shell. When he gets up, a second shell barely misses him. He responds by shooting a mini-missile at the tank, destroying it. Using the palm repulsors he designed, he destroys the captured Jericho missiles. After they are demolished, Raza arrives in time to see Tony fly off. CENTCOM at Edwards Air Force Base detects Tony in flight, mistaking him for a rogue drone. Colonel Rhodes is asked about the status of any new developments. He contacts Tony, who claims that he knows nothing about what is happening. In the meantime, Tony is confronted by two F-22 Raptors. He tries to outrun the jets, but they are too much for him. Tony calls Rhodes and reveals that he is responsible for the unidentified craft. Rhodey is furious about Tony sending in unauthorized equipment, and horrified when Tony explains that the equipment is actually himself and his new invention. Tony is hit by one fighter jet, sending him flying into the wing of the second jet. The pilot is forced to eject, but his parachute fails to open. Iron Man flies in and deploys the parachute in time to rescue the pilot. Tony convinces Rhodey to pass off what happened with the jets as a training exercise. Meanwhile, Stane pays a visit to the Ten Rings camp, revealing he paid the organization to capture and kill Tony, but they realized who Tony was and had demanded a much higher price when they made their tape. Using a high-powered sonic device that induces temporary paralysis, Stane immobilizes Raza and takes the remnants of the Mark I armor they have gathered. Stane then has his men execute everyone in the camp. Tony tries to talk Pepper into helping him, believing that nothing else matters but saving the people who he put in harm's way. Pepper is moved by Tony's dedication and agrees. She goes into Obadiah's office with a flash drive programmed to copy files from the computer. As Pepper sifts through stored files, she finds a video from the terrorist proving that Obadiah was responsible for Tony's capture. Obadiah comes into the office and sees her at the computer, but Pepper manages to hide what she is really doing. She leaves the office, but as soon as he powers up the computer, Obadiah realizes what she was up to. On the way out, Pepper sees Agent Coulson and tells him he can have his interview immediately so that he accompanies her safely out of the building. Obadiah meets with his team of developers who are working on his own armored suit based on the Mark I. They have rebuilt the components, but they cannot miniaturize Stark's arc reactor. Stane is furious but relents when the lead developer tells him he's not the genius Tony is. Stane arrives at Tony's house and paralyzes him with the sonic weapon. Obadiah yanks out the Mark II chest piece from Tony's chest, taunting him about how it will be the flagship invention in a new era of weaponry. After he leaves, Tony realizes that he has only one hope for survival: the preserved arc reactor that Pepper gave him as a gift. He staggers down to his workshop and nearly dies while trying to retrieve the reactor. Tony gets the reactor installed just as Rhodey arrives. Rhodey informs him that 5 agents have gone to arrest Obadiah, but Tony knows that is not nearly enough manpower. Rhodey watches Tony suit up, awestruck at the Iron Man armor. As Tony flies away, Rhodey spots the silver-colored prototype suit, the Mark II, then shakes his head and mumbles next time. Pepper, Coulson, and several other agents arrive at Obadiah's research facility. They spot the Mark I armor and a storage location where something else was kept. Just then, a gigantic robotic suit comes to life and attacks them, It's Obadiah's counterpart suit, codenamed the Ironmonger, powered by the chest piece he stole from Tony. While Tony flies towards the research facility, JARVIS warns him that he has only about half power in the suit because the older chest piece wasn't designed to power the Mark III during sustained flight. Tony arrives just as Obadiah is about to execute Pepper. The two ironclad warriors begin a huge brawling battle that spills into the streets near Stark Industries, while Tony tries to protect any innocent civilians. Tony flies into the upper atmosphere, drawing Obadiah along with him. Obadiah struggles, but before long his suit begins to freeze up. Obadiah begins to fall back to Earth, leaving Tony hovering above. The older arc reactor begins to lose power rapidly, and Tony falls back to Earth. Back on the ground, Obadiah attacks Tony again. Tony manages to disable the weapons tracking system in Obadiah's suit and evades Obadiah long enough to instruct Pepper to overload the building's arc reactor, which will generate a shockwave strong enough to disable Obadiah's suit. Pepper is hesitant, believing that Tony could also be killed. Tony manages to keep fighting while she builds up power to the reactor. The reactor releases its shockwave, knocking out the Ironmonger suit, which falls into the reactor, killing Stane and destroying the reactor. Stark's original mini-arc reactor sparks back to life, allowing Tony to survive. Days later, Rhodey holds a press conference about the incident with the two robots. Tony is impressed with the name the newspapers come up with, Iron Man, and plans to adopt it. Agent Coulson has released cover stories about the death of Obadiah, who will die in a small plane crash while Tony is supposedly elsewhere, and the truth about Iron Man, who will be referred to as Stark's bodyguard. Coulson says that they will be in touch again. Tony goes before the reporters once more and prepares to comply with the cover story. But as he begins talking, he throws away his notes and declares, "I am Iron Man." The press goes into a frenzy. After the credits rolls, Tony returns home to find a mysterious man in black, telling him that as Iron Man, Tony has become part of a larger universe. He turns around and introduces himself, Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's come to talk with Tony about an upcoming project known as the Avenger Initiative. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more video like this.